Alrighty. Welcome back, everyone, for the, I guess I can call it a tradition at this point now that I've done it twice in a row. The traditional ranking every single mono green card in the next Revolution set. For those who are not aware, Solastere, I hope I pronounced that right, by designer Scribble, has officially been admitted into the format. And we have 53 mono green cards here to go over. I am including a couple hybrid cards that can be cast in mono green in this list because I actually do think some of them have a lot of potential for this deck. But before we get into the new cards, let's take a look at how mono green Stompy is doing right now. And the answer is not great. There have not been very many incentives to go mono green over something like Gruel or Celestia. I had to make up this deck list off to the right because no one's played mono green, including me, the supposed mono green connoisseur. So yeah, that is a little rough. We do have the possibility of a good shell here. Aspiring Anarchist is still a great one-drop. Husforger Acolyte's obviously still a great one-drop. Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh is still good. We have Buffer Reconservatory paying us off for going mono green. Mathsmith and Growing Gecko are strong two-drops that we can consider. But the deck did play some cards from Awakening in Uldun, the set that's about to rotate out to make room for Solastere. So, what's rotating? Well, we got Hardy Rough Rider. It was a sideboard mainstay, great for padding our burn matchup life total, and it was a nice little way to, recoup some lost life. Mammoth Undertaking was a card that never really stuck, but I did try it a couple times, and it was a solid combat trick, 1 mana 2/2, or 1 mana +2/+2 and trample that draws me a card. That has to have some potential, and I thought it did okay. Morbid Bloomer was an incredible card, not so much in this deck because we didn't do much milling, but in other decks it had a lot of power. And Thunderous Avalanche, oh my god, it is such a powerful sideboard tool. Whether it was removal, especially killing really big things for like a single creature or planeswalker, or just wiping the board of artifacts and enchantments, Thunderous Avalanche pretty much did it all. However, the biggest loss is Yen's Slopeskidder. The green 4-drop of choice, and pretty much the only 4-drop we have in the format before Solastere comes in. Every other green 4-drop has not managed to impress. Yen's was pretty much the far and away best option for the deck, has been since the deck's inception, and losing her is a really painful loss. So we are going to see if hopefully Solastere can bring some good 4-drops for the deck to replace Yen's. A couple notes. I am going to be briefly mentioning other non-mono green decks that cards could potentially be good in. This list here is completely focused on mono green. However, if a card does have synergy with another color pair, I will be remiss if I do not bring it up. That being said, I think it's time to get started. Yep. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start at number 53, Chasing Stars. Now, I want to preface, this is not a bad card. Sacrificing on one permanent and getting a chart token is a decent effect. And when you sacrifice your third permanent, wow, I'm stuttering. When you sacrifice your third permanent each turn, getting a 4/4 token off your 2-drop is potent. Now, mono green doesn't exactly have a lot of typical sacrifice decks. We do have a couple cards that self-enable with sacrificing. You have a lot of berry tokens, which this could be very potent with. A card like Frenzy Plant, for example, can instantly get you your 4/4 token off your 3 berry tokens that you sacrifice. Stuff like Cogwork Harvester gives you both sack fodder and the ability to sack stuff. Unfortunately, just mono green Stompy is not a sacrifice deck. The current list runs 0 sacrifice cards outside of Treasure Makers on Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh, and that just isn't enough. We aren't interested in a chart token, and any tokens that we can sacrifice, or any person we can sacrifice, are going to be tokens, so unfortunately, we have to pass. Speaking of cards that can fetch up lands, Endless Horizons is 3 and a green for an instant that searches your library for 2 basic land cards, reveals them, put one on the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, and then you shuffle. And then you gain 4 life. 4 mana is just so late to start ramping, unfortunately. The fact that it does put one to your hand is nice. The 4 life, again, is nice. But turn 4 is a bit late to be gaining life against an aggro deck, especially when it's not adding any pressure on board. And if we want ramp, green has much cheaper ramp options that are on creatures. So, unfortunately, Endless Horizons not quite going to make the cut. Speaking of ramp, we have yet another ramp target and a ramp enabler here in Ursus Majora. 5 green and a green for a 7/7 creature bear spirit that says whenever a land you control enters, Ursus Majora gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. And it has an adventure for 2 and a green that you can search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Initially, I was kind of interested in this card. You know, it gives us something to do turn 3, which is not something we actually have a lot to do in mono green, and it gives us our top end. We do not have a great top end in the format right now. However, there are cards later in the list that both ramp better and cards that are ramp targets better. While this does combine the package into one card, unfortunately, it is not a very exciting card. 7 mana is just so much, even with that added ramp, and we can't really be taking turns off early to do nothing that affects the board. So, unfortunately, I also have to pass on Ursus Majora. You may see their little sibling a little later in the list. Scintillating Vista is 2 and a green for an enchantment aura with Enchant Land. When it enters, you create a chart token, and Enchantment Land has tap, add 2 mana of any one color. Again, unfortunately, we just have so much better ramp options. Huskforger Acolyte has been the premier green ramp choice for ever since it was added to the format 4 months ago, and I do not see that changing anytime soon. 3 mana ramp is slow, and getting a chart token is not quite the push I need to start running 3 mana ramp in my Stompy deck. So, again, we're going to have to pass. Andir Ley Tower is 2 and a green for a 1/4 creature wall. It has Defender and tap. Target land you control becomes an XX green spirit land creature with haste until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control with Defender. Unfortunately, we are not a Defender deck. Mono green is not going to be the Defender deck of choice even when Solastere gets added to the format. We had one good Defender card in Iterate coming in, and Solastere really isn't adding very many other Defenders as well. And even if it is making a 2/2 or 3/3 land creature with haste worth the effort? Unfortunately, I think not. So we are going to be passing on Andir Ley Tower. I did even note that it could be ramped into with Huskforger Acolyte. It is a 3-drop. Again, we're looking for 3-drops, but this one isn't it. Speaking of 3-drops, we have Awakened Aberration. 1, a red and a green, and a red and a green. And to be clear, red and green is a hybrid symbol here. For a 3/3 creature horror beast, whenever Awakened Aberration attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, Awakened Aberration gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible on a turn. This is mildly interesting. A 3 mana 4/4 is something we have messed around with before. However, it being conditional isn't great. The indestructible is nice, but only during your turn means it's more for combat than actual removal protection. And we already dominate combat by virtue of having the biggest creatures on the board. This is no Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh. Additionally, we do not have very much sack fodder here in green. This is going to be something that's coming up a lot, but in terms of sack fodder, there isn't much. We can make some creature tokens, but in terms of creatures with death triggers, it's pretty much just Silliman Regrafter and a couple other draft shaft. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to pass because of our lack of synergies here. Nebulous Rebirth is 3 and a green for a sorcery that says you gain 2 life and you may mill 2 cards. Then you may return a creature and or a land card from your graveyard to your hand. This card does a couple neat things that I thought maybe deserves a little bit to be a little bit higher. 4 mana to draw 2, gain 2. Passable, you know. I wouldn't stick up my nose at it if I wasn't a Stompy deck. Unfortunately, as a Stompy deck, we just do not have time to be running this. We do not run very much self-mill. We have cut Reaper Blossom since its nerf. So we really just don't have very many ways to stock the graveyard. Solastere does add a couple ways to stock the graveyard in later down the list, but they are not going to be cards in my top 10. So I just don't think Nebulous Rebirth gets there. Glimmermare is Draft Shaft. It's a 3 and a green for a 2/3 creature elk. When it enters, you create a 1/1 white spirit creature token and a chart token. So, the only reason that this card is even being mentioned is that it makes tokens. It makes quite a few tokens, actually. 3 cardboards for 4 mana is not exactly an incredible rate, but we don't really have much other like that in the 4-drop slot. Unfortunately, we do have 3 drops that can make tokens. Dreadchant Warcaller, Redeemer of Hollow Flesh, the Commander from Exalted Twiltree. Just so many better options than Glimmermare, unfortunately. However, there are cards in green that want you to sacrifice stuff. Now, I can't remember the name, and it's especially embarrassing because it's my own card, but it is a green 6-drop that allows you to sack 2 things to make a 6/6 Serpent token, I think. So there is the possibility there, but there are probably, I think there are better 4-drops later in the list that you can run for that. So we're going to pass on this one as well. Crustgorger is 2 green and green for a 5/5 creature Hellion. When it enters, you put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature control. You can pay 1 and a green to remove a -1/-1 counter from this creature to make it not able to be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn, and only as a sorcery. If we're looking for 4-drops, we did lose Yen's, but this is not the replacement. Vestige of the King's Fall is a 4-mana 6/5 with Trample, which is already bigger than this card is ever going to be, and likely better at getting through blockers. Growthborn Envoy is a card I have messed around with adding before, and it is also going to be bigger than this card will ever be most often. So Crustgorger, we're just going to have to pass. If there was some sort of -1/-1 counter synergy in this color pair, or sorry, in this color, I would be more into it. But as is, I'm not seeing very much, so we're going to have to pass. Crestfallen Colossus is 4 green and green. For a creature elemental warrior, it is a 5/4. It has the align mechanic, which says each other creature you tap while casting the spell or activating its abilities pays for 1. And you can pay 2 and a green to give it +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. Now here's the thing about mono green, it doesn't actually go that wide. We do not have a lot of cards in the deck right now that generate tokens, so we cannot take much advantage of align. We generally want to be attacking with our creatures, not tapping them to cast something. Now, there are green creatures that make tokens. We are getting a Raise the Alarm this set. We are getting a 3-mana 1/1 that makes 2 more 1/1s. We already have a 3-mana 1/1 that makes more 1/1s in the format. So I could see a place where an Align card actually sees a lot of play. I don't think Crestfallen Colossus is it. It is just not worth the stats. Or it's not worth the mana for the stats. So unfortunately, we are going to pass. There are better 6 and 5 drops out there. Blinding Ambush is 3 and a green for an instant that says this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a creature you control with Flash. And it says target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 other target creature or planeswalker. Now, I won't lie, indestructible and a bite for instant speed, that's kind of enticing. Unfortunately, green's flash creatures are pretty slim pickings. We have, I want to say Faithline Marshal is the name, and that's pretty much it from before the set. This set does add a couple more green flash creatures, but none that can really take advantage of the bite mode here in a compelling way. So we are going to pass, but I'm keeping this in mind for the future. We do currently run Momentous Strike, but I could see a world where I run this for indestructibility and a bite at instant speed for 2 mana. I think that would be better than the 1 mana bite for sorcery speed. Rex Tyrannos is 5 green and green for a 7/5 creature dinosaur spirit. It has trample, and whenever it attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. And it has an adventure for 1 and a green. It's an instant that says, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. We are not a cheat out deck. If we put this in our deck, it would be the biggest creature. So we're at most only going to be talking about 2 7/5s for 7 mana, and that sounds nice, but it's not that good because we are going to take forever to get to that 7 mana. So we would really be more interested in the adventure here. I think a taller Stompy deck can consider this, but we are quite aggressive. So unfortunately, I'm going to stick with a Journey Begins or go up a mana and actually put the thing into play with Ozin's Blessing. So yeah, I mean, this can't even grab lands, so we are just going to have to pass. Prism Catcher is a card that I thought was quite interesting. 1 and a green for a 1/3 creature elemental druid. It has a line, again, and reach, and you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. This is sort of a weird pseudo mana dork. You can tap one creature to play this as a 1-drop, and you can tap another creature to make it tap for mana of any color. I would be probably slightly more interested in this if we didn't already have Huskforger Acolyte. So I would have to more compare it to the 2-drops, and again, it kind of falters there. So unfortunately, I'm going to pass on Prism Catcher, but it was interesting. Gorian Gladeheart is 4 green for a 3/3 creature antelope. It has flash, reach, and when Gorian Gladeheart enters, you gain 3 life and draw a card. This is a card that, I could see a world where we are starved for card draw and we play this. However, we have better 5-drops that we want to run. Aurora Buffer Exec is a great card that helps ramp us. We have some powerful landfall cards coming up on the list, and it fills our graveyard a little bit, which is nice. And it's a 5-mana 5/5 trample, which is definitely better than a 3/3 flash reach. And if we really want stats, we can go for Vasilia. So Gorian Gladeheart's just not quite going to get there. For Pauper, I could see it. We do definitely have a lack of strong green cards in Pauper, so I could see this seeing some play. Putrigoyf is 4 black-green hybrids, so that is 4 black-green hybrid symbols for a creature Lurgoyf. It is a 0/1 with trample. It gets +2/+2 for each card type among cards in your graveyard. Note that is double the normal Lurgoyf amount. And when it leaves your graveyard during your turn, you mill 4 cards. We do not run any ways to get it to leave our graveyard consistently. There is one coming later in the list, but I'm not quite sure it's worth running Putrigoyf just to synergize with that. We are predominantly a creature deck, so we are not really going to have much ways to get this beyond like a 4 or 5 for 4, which is like fine, but I just think we unfortunately have better options. I am keeping my eye on it. I definitely think there is a world where it's a strong option, and it can definitely do some cheaty things, but I just don't think this is the deck to enable it. Burgeoning Nebula is a land that I would be a lot higher on if it wasn't for another land in the set. It enters tapped, and when it enters, you can return a land. You have to return a land you control to its owner's hand, and it can tap to add double green. That is right. We are getting mono-colored bounce lands, 1 for each color, which puts us up to 6 bounce lands in the format. We used to be a landfall deck when Jens was around. Now Jens is rotating, but we are getting a couple more landfall cards that are quite strong. So I could see a world where Burgeoning Nebula is good. However, there is a card later in the list, much, much later, that wants your mana base to be only forests. And unfortunately, Nebula is not a forest. It's a really far away star system. So we are just going to have to pass on this one for that other card. But I could see a world where if we get some untapped lands effects like Skull and Nyx Weaver, Burgeoning Nebula suddenly becomes a lot more enticing. So we will have to keep an eye on that. One Knight of Serenity is 1 green for a sorcery that says create 2 1/1 white elf creature tokens. If your life total is greater than your starting life total, those creatures get +1/+1 and gain vigilance and haste until end of turn. Raise the alarm for green. I don't think we had one before. Well, no, we had Ragtag Squad. Okay, so now we have 2 different sets of Raise the Alarms for green. We really have the density if we want to build a mono green tokens deck. Commander of the Vow is a pretty good payoff. Anik Oathbound will help you gain that life, though I will note I don't believe you get the +1/+1 and Vigilance Haste if it's the Anik Oathbound trigger. That would push you over your life total, because I believe that trigger resolves after the spell's already finished resolving, so you would not get the buff. But if you're already there, all good. You can go ahead and swing in with your 2/2/2s for 2 mana, which is not bad. So I don't think this card's a haymaker or anything, but if this mono green tokens deck that I want to try out is a thing, I'm sure this card will get in there. Alwanor the Humbled Star is part of the legendary dragon mythic cycle of the set. And unfortunately, we don't really want it. 7 a green, and a green for a 10/10 legendary creature, Dragon Spirit. Has trample, reach, and other creatures you control have base power toughness 5/5. And has the sorcery adventure, Path of Provenance. 1 a green, and you create a 1/1 green elf creature token with tap, add green. We do like, occasionally, 2 mana creatures that ramp. Huskforger Acolyte has kind of put a stop to us running those anymore because we'd rather go 1-drop into 3-drop than 2-drop into 4-drop, especially since we don't really have good 4-drops anymore. However, I could see a reason where 2-mana 1/1 that draws a card and ramps is powerful. However, 10 mana is just beyond our means. I don't think I've ever gotten to a game in 10 mana where this would come out and win. Those are stalled games that this would just be a 10/10 with trample that eats a removal spell. So unfortunately, I have to pass on Almanor. But for a ramp deck, I'm very into it. Lacufe Pastor is 1 and then hybrid green white for a 3/2 creature elf cleric. Whenever another creature you control enters, Lacufe Pastor gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you gain 1 life. Again, if we have like a tokens list, I could see a world where this gets in. There are life gain synergies in mono green. We have Cyrus, I believe is or Syra from Exalted Twiltree that also does a similar effect if you're looking for redundancy. And both bound. We have another 1-drop coming later. That's a Soul Warden. So if this tokens deck wants to be a life gain deck, I could see the Pastor here getting in. For the normal list, absolutely not. This is definitely way too slow, way too small of a body, and we really don't care about the life gain all that much. So we are going to pass, but I'm keeping it in mind. Breach Herald is 4 and a green for a 4/4 creature elemental cleric. It has a line, and you can pay 4 and a green to reveal cards from the top of your library until you have your creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. I was very prepared to write this card off as Draft Chaff. However, being able to reduce the activate ability actually has some utility. Again, there is this potential mono green tokens list that wants to tap down their creatures to pay for a line or swing in, and we can draw into more action with this. It is a 4/4, which is a decent stat line. It doesn't always have to come down on turn 5. We can cheat it out. We can cheat it out really easily. Commander of the Vow, turn 3, tap down all your creatures. Play this for 2 mana. Is that bad? Our other card draw options in green are pretty terrible. I mean, Gravebound Oath has seen almost no play, even though it is a card I did try. There are other options that have just not quite made it. So I am interested in at least testing Breach Herald to see if there's any possibility of it seeing play. Lupensi Perseus is 7 a green and green for a 9/7 creature wolf spirit with trample and ward 2. It also has a adventure, Path of Savagery, 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. I honestly am into this. If we know we're going against a deck that likes to grind into the game very long and has creatures and planeswalkers we can remove, I think I want to run this because we might hit the 9th land and we can bring in Lupensi to fight it. I think that takes a specific meta, but if that meta does exist, I'm happy to put Lupensi in my sideboard. Otherwise, I think Momentous Strike is still going to be the premier mono green removal option of choice, and Ramp Through will probably still be the better catch-all if you want an instant speed option. But Lupensi, I do have my eye on you. You seem interesting. Vista Painter is 1 and a green for a creature Moonfolk Druid. It is a 3/3. It has flash and it enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. At the beginning of your end step, if you cast no spells this turn, remove a -1/-1 counter from Vista Painter. If you do, create a chart token. Now, again, I don't think mono green flash is going to be a thing, so this is pretty much only for other decks. I think that deck could exist that wants Vista Painter. I mean, it comes down as a 2-mana 1/1. That's not exactly going to do any combat shenanigans or stop any spells from happening, but it is going to make some chart tokens and eventually upgrade up to a 3/3. I think there is potential. Star Touch Devout is a 1-mana 1/1 creature elf cleric. When Star Touch Devout dies, create a 1/1 red spirit creature token with Wither, and you gain 2 life. This card is basically a sum of all its parts, and that's the reason why it's ranked here on the list. It dies into a token, so the sacrifice synergies we were mentioning that we were missing earlier, this card goes ahead and fills some of them. It gains 2 life, enables Vigor from Exalted Twiltree. There you go, that's something. Wither, helps shrink some creatures. There are a bunch of very minor synergies here that I could see being useful. I'm not enamored with this card, but I do think it has some potential. Abyssal Burrower is triple black green. Again, just going to emphasize, triple black green is all hybrid symbols for a 4/2 creature mole. When it enters, you exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards, and you can pay triple black green and exile 2 other permanent cards from your graveyard to return Abyssal Burrow from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. So this card is basically, if you want to run a, let's be honest, a slightly worse Spiky Gravetiller in mono green, and I don't think I do. I have considered running it before when Reaper of Blossoms was better than it was, and we do have some mill to enable it. We could add Reaper back into the deck, Aurora mills some cards. There is the possibility where it sees play, but 4/2 is such a painful stat line in this meta when so many people are running 1 mana removal to deal with Huskforger Acolyte that also hits Abyssal Burrower, and returning with the finality counter is just so painful because Spiky can keep coming back, but Burrower, one time and that's it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to pass. Invasive Progenitor is a red-green, 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 red-green for a 3/4 creature beast. When it enters, you may sacrifice any number of creatures and create that many 3/3 red beast creature tokens. Basically a baby realm violator. Again, we don't have much sack fodder, but we did go over one new sack fodder piece. We still have Silliman Grafter as well. So I could see a world where upgrading all your creatures to a 3/3 is something, right? I don't believe in this card at the moment, but I could see a world where this mono greens token deck uses this to upgrade all your tokens, right? Like Commander of the Vow into this, I have a board full of 3/3s. That's something. I could see that being pretty good. Horizon Vassal is 2 and a green for a 3/2 creature Moonfolk Druid. It has flash. When it enters, you may mill 3 cards, and you can pay 2 and a green and exile Horizon Vassal and 2 other cards named Horizon Vassal from your graveyard to create a 9/6 green wolf spirit creature token with trample, activating only as a sorcery. So, this card is probably higher than it deserves, but it does a lot of small things that make me kind of interested in it. It mills 3 cards. That is not something you get very often on an enter trigger in this format right now. For some reason, a lot of green cards just only mill 2 or 1 card. So this is 3. That's something. It has flash. We have cards that care about flash now. The 2-drop curves into Horizon Vassal. And you have that activated ability. We haven't talked about activated ability decks yet, but this can be grabbed by stuff like Contest Coordinator. Is that all worth it as a package? No, probably not. Even with the exile mode from the graveyard making a 9/6 is very susceptible. I love the idea of the card. I think it's a very cute card, and I could see a world where people build it. But is it good? Probably not. Speaking of cards that mill too, we have Lost Pilgrim. 1 mana for a 1/1 creature Elf Scout. When it enters, you may mill 2 cards. You can pay 1 and a green to exile Lost Pilgrim from your graveyard, return another target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, activate only as a sorcery. This is some good sack fodder. Fills your graveyard, and you can buy back something later for just 1 and a green. It's efficient. It does what you need. If we were a mill deck, I think this would be a slam dunk. Of the 3 packages, roughly, that I see this set bring, or 4, I should say 4. We have the Flash deck, which I think mono green just cannot do whatsoever. We have the Mill package, which I think is the next strongest up from that. We have the Tokens package, which I think has some potential, and we have the Landfall package, which I'm really into. I think the Mill package is probably not going to make it, but if it is, it'll be on the back of Lost Pilgrim as its 1-drop. We have some powerful things we want to rebuy. Mass Smith is a decent sack trigger that we can just get back with Lost Pilgrim to kind of cycle it. We don't lose the card we get back. We can keep replaying them with Lost Pilgrims. If there comes a time when we need to replay one card over and over again, Lost Pilgrim helps us enable that. We have our mono green Planeswalker. This is the first mono green Planeswalker since Vasilia, I believe. And Hamai, Star Sower, is 1 green and green for a legendary Planeswalker. Whenever a land you control enters, you put a loyalty counter on her. She has a 0 ability to create a chart token, and a -3 ability that says you may play an additional land this turn until end of turn. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token, and she has 4 loyalty. I think this is a very compelling ramp Planeswalker. For mono green Stompy, I don't know. There are a couple key things about her that makes me maybe interested in her. One, she can come in off of Hustforger Acolyte. That is huge. She, when you play Hustforger, you can follow up with her, and you can make an additional land drop, and that is a permanent land drop. That is permanent ramp. So if either her or Acolyte die, you still keep the ramp. That is pretty nice. There is also the ability to draw cards off her. Granted, you have to pay 2, and you're only going to draw lands, but it's something. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, she does make tokens whenever a land you control enters. So a Roar could potentially make 3 tokens off that -3. Faithline Marshal, casting the second spell, gives you another token. This is a way to gum up the board. I don't think you put this in the all-in tokens deck, because those cards already have, like, token matters cards that are much better. I think you run her as just, like, 3-drop that protects itself with the tokens, and you just, like, keep churning out cards with her. You get lands into your hand, then you put lands on the battlefield, and she keeps growing and growing and growing. I think she's not the strongest walker. I will be the first to admit it, but I think she can have a place. If Mono Green Stompy goes all in on landfall, like I think they might, I could see an Amite coming in, potentially. Kynox Naturalist is a 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature elf druid. You can tap it to add green, or tap it to sacrifice an artifact or another creature to add double green. Sack deck gets another thing it can sacrifice stuff with. Double ramp on a 2-drop, pretty strong. Put you up to a 5-drop, right? Yeah, 5-drop turn 3. That is enticing. Now, we don't actually run that much sack fodder, again, so we would have to rebuild the deck a little to enable this. But it is still a 2-mana 2-drop that taps her mana. Like, that is not a bad baseline. Being a 2/2 is actually better than our dorks usually are. So I could see a world where Kynox Naturalist comes in. Unfortunately, the 2-drop slot in mono green is so crowded. There are so many good 2-drops in the color, so Kynox Naturalist will have to fight to get in, including with other cards in this set. Sire of Greatness is 3 and a green for a 3/4 creature elemental cleric. It has a line, and you can pay 2 and a green, tap it, and sacrifice another creature to search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. It's Vanifar, or for you dinosaurs, it's Birthing Pod. Unfortunately for this, I don't think it's quite good as either of those other two. Not being free to activate is really painful. A lot of those cards' powers is it can go fetch up an untapper, sacrifice the untapper, go fetch another one, sacrifice it, go fetch, until you finally get a good 4 or 5-drop to get put into play. We do have some untappers, Brutal Throat Crusher being the 3-drop in the chain, but I don't think it's quite worth it. I don't think you can ever get this out on... I mean, sometimes you get it out on turn 3, but you're never going to be able to activate it on turn 3. You can activate it on turn 4 or turn 5, and that is just way too long for it to just be sitting out there begging to get removed. Commander of the Vow is a card I could see some play with it. I mean, again, this card has a line, so it already likely wants to go into a deck that kind of goes wide. And if you sacrifice Commander of the Vow or a card coming later to Sire, you can go get another 4-drop. So I could see a world where mono green runs this, but I think this is going to be better suited to a multicolor deck that can better take advantage of the whole package. Guiding Gladeheart is quadruple Selesnya hybrid for a 2/2 creature elk. It has Ward 2. And it says at the beginning of your first main phase, create 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens. Yet again, another card for the tokens deck. This makes 2 tokens every turn. Create to pair with Commander of the Vow if you're playing just straight tokens. And if you want sacrifice fodder, Realm Violator is 2 turns away. I think 2/2 is just such a small stat line that dies to everything that the Ward 2 is just not quite going to cut it here. Making tokens is certainly nice, and against some decks, this is just going to overwhelm the board. I'm imagining Consume the Divine with this, and I am terrified. So I do think there are worlds where this sees play, but I just don't think mono green is quite the slot. Attuned Lightbinder is double Simic hybrid for a 2/1 creature elf cleric. It has flash, and when it enters, target creature control gets +0/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. I wanted to include this card as kind of like a maybe, again, flash deck, could see this being a thing. Flash 2-drops, very nice to have. There's going to be another card later that pairs pretty well with this. Our current hexproof protection spells are all 1 mana, and we don't really run them ever. We generally want to be more proactive, and we can't really afford to hold up mana. But there are worlds where I could see us switching to a flash deck and wanting to invest into a hexproof creature. I mean, there are 2 drops that flash in and give stuff hexproof that I've seen play before, so I could see a world where a Tuned Lightbinder is that creature. There is a chance. Speaking of the card that enables it, we have Blinded Visionary, triple Simic hybrid mana for a 3/2 creature human druid with flash and, at the beginning of your end step, untap up to 2 target permanents. Again, we have another part of the flash deck. You can hold up Ram Through, you can hold up Realm Rift Implosion, you can hold up Counter Magic since you're probably not going to be playing this as a mono green deck. You can run a Tuned Lightbinder. There are chances this card sees play, but for mono green, I don't think it's super likely. Alvanor's Mark is a single green mana for a sorcery that says choose one. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, or Alvanor's Mark deals 4 damage to target creature with flying. Momentous Strike, this is not. However, if Flyers ever becomes a deck, for example, White-Green Convoke is a very powerful Angel Typal Flyer deck, I'm absolutely subbing this in over Momentous Strike to be able to shoot down their turn 2 4/4 Flyer. So, there is a world where I jam this. I think that is a very narrow application, which is why it's only going to make it to number 20 on the list. But it is a very solid, very tangible thing, which is why it's going to rank here. Blightseer is 3 and a green for a 3/5 creature elf cleric. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, create a 1/1 black spirit token creature with, I think that's supposed to be a creature token, with Wither, and this creature can't block. And when Blightseer leaves your graveyard during your turn, create a 1/1 black spirit creature token with Wither, and this creature can't block. We have some ways to enable the first ability. Reaper of Blossoms is a major one, but we also have surface cards. Harvest Time triggers by grabbing, you can grab your land from a graveyard, and then again when you surface. So that's 2 triggers for Blightseer. It's not a once per turn. We don't have much ways to actually trigger the leaves the graveyard on the bottom, except for one other card coming later, or Mass Smith, but I feel like trading your 3/2 in for a 1/1 Wither that can't block is probably not worth it. But I could see a world where this sees play. 4 mana 3/5, chunky stat line. Pretty solid into a lot of the 4 damage spells, like Frag can't hit this. That's nice. And this just makes tokens that are going to reduce our opponent's board or chip in for damage. There is a world where this sees play. Step Beyond. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be shocked that this is this low. Green for a sorcery that says reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom in a random order. Yes, this is a 2 mana rampant growth in Revolution. Very exciting. However, Stompy is not a deck that really wants this ramp. We want to play Huskforger Acolyte turn 1 and ramp into a 3-drop. We don't want to skip our turn 2 and then ramp into a 4-drop. Our 4-drops aren't strong enough to justify that. So, Step Beyond doesn't quite make it. Except Landfall. I did say I was very excited for Landfall, and I could see a world where we run this just to get another Landfall trigger on top of the ramp. There are Landfall cards coming in the set that are absolutely worth playing Step Beyond with. So I think I'm tentatively excited to jam this. And who knows, sometimes we really do just play this and play a 4-drop after. Having that as an option against slower decks, it's something. Ephemeral Leech is double black-green hybrid for a 3/2 creature leech. It enters tapped, and when it enters or dies, you surveil 1. This is kind of just like an above statted, kind of cool creature. 2 mana, 3/2, decent stats. Enters or dies, surveil 1. Hey, that's nice. It punches through the 2 mana 2/3s that have been in Revolution, such as I should have had a list. I'm so bad with names when I don't have a list. Everyone knows the hand hate black guy, black card. That's a 2/3. This can punch right through, and it is somewhat resistant to removal. Surveilling 1 fills the yard a little. We have had some graveyard synergies. Aspiring Anarchist doesn't mind copying a 3/2. Orochi Soulfang will see a 3/2 and grow. We're not going to play Orochi Soulfang, but I had to put something on the slide. It's something, you know? It's not a draft chaff card. I could see a world where I play it. Colossal Pathraiser is 3 and a green for a 5/5 creature beast. When it enters, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. It has Vigilance and Reach. And then you can pay green, remove a -1/-1 counter from Colossal Pathrazer to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Activate only as a sorcery. Hey, another creature to add to our possibilities of destroying artifacts and enchantments. I think this one's a bit more main deckable than the rest. 4 mana, 5/5, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature control. I could see a world where you put this on another guy and just have your 4 mana, 5/5 with Vigilance and Reach against a deck that doesn't have artifacts and enchantments you want to blow up. Just popping a creature for 1 mana and being able to just have that option is available. That's nice. Wait, did I say creature? Pop that, an artifact or enchantment. Yeah. And it has Vigilance and Reach. That means he can swing in and block flyers in the air. Mono green Stompy, historically, terrible against flyers. So having a 5/5 Vigilance Reach to block is probably pretty nice. I am higher on this card than I think I probably should be. But again, green 4-drops, so bad right now. I am looking at pretty much any options. Keenox Laypillar is 1 green for a 0/3 creature wall with Defender. When it enters, you may mill 2 cards. Then you may return a permanent card milled this way to your hand. This is a 2-mana 0/3 that draws a card if you build your deck right. I could see a world where we play this. We don't run a lot of card advantage type beats. We normally stop at like a Journey Begins. But, 2-mana creature that draws a card, I could see a world. Dawnspark Vanguard draws us a card. We haven't played that, but Keenox Laypillar can actually draw us a real card instead of a land. Gravebound Oath is not a card we've ever played, but Keenox Laypillar could kind of substitute that slot. I'm never going to rank low a 2-mana creature that draws a card. I don't think we play it, but the option is there. Speaking of Ley Spires, I am high on this card. It is a 2 green and a green for a 3/5 creature wall with Defender and Reach. When it enters, you destroy all artifacts and enchantments with mana value 3 or less. I adore this card. I'm going to be jamming it in all my sideboards. And now I know you're asking, Prof, if you love this card so much, why is it all the way at number 14? Well, I have a good answer for that, and that's because it's not a 3-drop. It is not grabbable off a Journey Begins, which means when we're digging for our sideboard tools to answer stuff, we are not going to be able to find this as often. And it unfortunately doesn't deal with a couple of the scariest cards. Hungry Blob can't deal with them either, but stuff like Welkin Eviction, we can't do anything against it. And Gorgorian Lacespire can't do anything against it. And that's painful. So, I think Gorgorian Lacespire definitely has a place in our sideboards, but I'm going to have to evaluate if we need a split with something else, and that makes me a little lower on it. Eternal Struggle is a single green mana for an instant. It has choose 1. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 against hexproof until end of turn, and exile target card from a graveyard, draw a card. This card is sweet. It's a hexproof combat trick, or it can draw a card. I don't know if it's going to stay in that way. The curators did hit a card that did something similar, I believe, for Errors in the Weft. No. Errors in the Weft was not a modal card. It was the hexproof and cash a card. So no. I could totally see a world where Eternal Struggle gets in as is. Again, we don't really run hexproof spells, but I think this is quite a step up from the other ones that I could see a world where I sub this in. Hexproof combat trick, or cycling for 1 mana and hit something in a graveyard? Hell yeah, I'll main deck that. There's a world. That's all I'm saying. Eloris the Pathfinder, 2 and a green for a 1/1 legendary creature elf cleric. It has flash. When Eloris enters, you create 2 1/1 white elf creature tokens, and whenever opponent casts a spell during your turn, you create a green spirit token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. This card is gas-ish. I don't know how into it I am for mono green Stompy, because this does not stomp very well. It just makes 1/1s, and those are never going to be super exciting. But basically saying you can't ever cast spells during my turn is sweet on a 3-drop. It still is 3/3 worth of stats. So I think if the mono green's token list is a thing, Eloris gets in there instantly. Probably as a 4 of. I don't know why Ozen would mark is there. That has nothing to do with this card. I probably should have got to add a second card. Yeah, but if mono green's tokens is a thing, Eloris is in. Snap pick. Calming Oryx. Triple green-white for a 4/4 creature antelope. Whenever damage is dealt to Calming Oryx, you gain 1 life. Now, I just want to say, we will not be running this card. It's not a good card. Unfortunately, we have better options. Brutal Throat Crusher. can be ramped into off of Huskforger Acolyte. Dreadchant Warcolor makes more stats when you turn it online. But Calming Oryx is a density of 4-drop, or 3 mana 4/4s. If we really are scared of Deafening Clarion and Coup d'etat, Calming Oryx and Brutal Throat Crusher can come in as a pair as our answers to that. For that, I think it's genuine a possibility. I'm ranking Calming Oryx probably a bit higher than it deserves. And who knows, gaining 1 life could matter. It's probably a pretty good blocker against like mono red. I could see it. Sunsower is a card I am quite excited to test. A single green mana for a 2/2 creature, human cleric. It enters with a -1/-1 counter on it. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. You can pay 3 and a green to remove a -1/-1 counter from Sunsower to create an XX red spirit creature token where X is your life total minus your starting life total. Activate only as a sorcery. This card is Laystone of Being returned for 4 mana and an activation, but who cares? Because this card can gain life. It is a 1-drop. It makes a big token. It does like all these nice little things. In the current iteration list, probably not worth it, but when we start running more bigger cards, like if we pair this up with Dreadchant Warcaller, I'm super into it. That being said, I'm not sure if quite all the support is there yet for this card to really shine. I would really like a Johnny's Pridemate or something in the colors. But as is, I'm willing to test it. Tumultivore is 3, a green, and a green for a 5/5 creature worm with trample and haste. Whenever Tumultivore or a land you control enters, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Craterhoof. We have a Craterhoof, sorta, kinda. We previously had Paragon of Sacred Bellows, which was kind of interesting. You know, it... Oof, sorry, my voice is going. We're almost there, Ben. Prof. A little bit of a dox there, that's fine. We're almost there, Prof. It was able to buff permanently your other creatures and gave them trample and haste, which is nice. Trample is pretty important. We do not have a lot of creatures with trample, surprisingly. But Tumultivore comes down having trample and haste itself already without needing to reprieve anything, and just buffs your board. And when you pair it with Aurora the turn before, holy moly, you can potentially have some insane attacks. That being said, Tumultivore has one small issue in that it's a 6-drop. We do not often get to 6 mana in this deck. Now, if we start running the 2 mana land ramps, we're already running Aurora. I could see a world where Tumultivore becomes a bit stronger, but I think we want to curve a little bit higher to run Tumultivore. But I'm willing to try it. Tumultivore is interesting. Haste is very good. We do not have a lot of hasty top ends right now. Paragon was kind of the only option, and removing a creature from your board was kind of painful. So Tumultivore just gives you trample and haste. No questions asked. And I'm into that. So we will be trying it out. Ravenous Stirrings is 3 and a green for a sorcery. You can search your library for up to 4 creature cards with mana value 3 or less that each have different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of their cards. Shuffle the chosen cards in your library, put the rest on the battlefield. I want to love this card. It is literally Coco, except you get to pick what you want. You never can whiff. It's beautiful. The only issue is Green's 3-drops are almost as bad as the 4-drops. We literally just have Redeemer of Hollow Flesh, and then after that, it's a bunch of very narrow, very specific cards. I want to love this card so bad. I was ready to put it at number 1. That's how much I loved it. But when looking at the options, we can barely muster 4 cards we even want to get with us, much less put in our deck and draw normally. So, unfortunately, I think I have to pass. But this is going to be Mr. Potential Man for the next 2 years in Revolution if it doesn't get nerfed from being in other decks before then, because this can grab so much potential cool stuff that's coming down the pipeline. I'm keeping an eye on Ravenous Stirrings, and I'm very excited for it. And Dear Wild Soul is a single green mana for a 1/1 creature elf shaman. It gets +1/+1 if a land you control enters this turn, and whenever it attacks, you can pay green. If you do, put a land card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. If it enters from a graveyard, put a finality counter on it. A 1 mana 2/2 that ramps. What? It is exciting. 1 mana 2/2, pretty solid. We don't really have any other creatures that can consistently be a 2/2 on turn 2 just from the mana base. Risen Butcher can do it if you run a Coalesced land, but we're not going to draw those most of the time. And Rochi Soulfang requires you have a creature on turn 2, and that's just not going to happen very often. So 1 mana 2/2 is exciting. We don't have that, and now we do. And then being able to put a land from my hand or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped, that's ramp. Unfortunately, Husforger Acolyte is just much better as ramp. This guy ramps to 4 from on to have 4 mana on turn 3. Husforger Acolyte ramps to have 3 mana on turn 2, and that's obviously better. So if we had more 4-drops, which we could, I could see a world where we do that. Like, for example, if Ravenous Stirrings, and we want to ramp to that really bad, and your Wild Soul gets us there, when Husforger Acolyte can't do it as consistently, I could see a world where you run this. And I'm probably going to run it anyway just because it's a 1-mana 2/2. But I have my trepidation. Again, it does put a land into play, though. Landfall decks. I'm also interested in this for landfall. So we'll see. Star-Crossed Vessel is a 3-mana 3/3 triple Gruul hybrid mana for a creature beast. When it dies, you create 3 1/1 Might Spirit creature tokens. It's just a Thrinax, dude. It's just a Thrinax. When it dies, you make a 3 1/1s. This is board wipe protection if we think we're going into a board wipe heavy meta. And it's just like, it does that job well. It's not vulnerable to removal. It punches through creatures decently well. I'm into it. You know, I don't think I would run this in a tokens list. I think I really just run this in stock mono green. Its biggest issue is that it cannot be ramped into with Husforger Acolyte without mana-based shenanigans. And that is a huge problem because green 3-drops are only really, really good off of Acolyte. Otherwise, they're just good. Obviously, Redeemer is still great, but the other green 3-drops, not quite as nice. So, I think that does hurt Vessel a lot. I'm into it, but I don't know how into it I am. Astraling. Quadruple green blue mana for a 4/4 creature shapeshifter. It has flash. It can't be countered. And you can pay a single hybrid Simic mana to have it get +1/+1 until end of turn. Or you can pay the same amount of mana again to give it Hexproof, Vigilance, Trample, or Reach until end of turn. This card screams Control Buster. A 4-mana 4/4 with flash that can't be countered. What the heck are they going to do against that? It can gain Hexproof. What the hell are you going to do against that? It can gain Vigilance and Trample, so it's not going to ever be able to be blocked safely. It can grow. It does everything. The one thing it can't do is be immune from board wipes, which is unfortunate. But, you know, it can't be the ultimate control killer. It doesn't need to have some weakness. But I think Astraling is going to be very potent in sideboards if we think control is going to be a thing. So far, control has not been a thing for quite a while in Rev. But there's a world where it comes back, you know? This defeats the Wandering Emperor very well. The Dutiful Wanderer very well. Like, Dutiful Wanderer is a card that dumpsters mono green pretty often, and Astraling kicks that card's ass. So I am excited for that. But speaking of cards I'm excited for, I'm even more excited for this one. Plaguebane Hulk is 3 green for a 5/5 creature beast horror with trample. Whenever it enters or attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-creature permanent. Its controller creates a tapped land token named Lotus Spring with tap, add 1 mana of any color. I never thought in a million years I would ever find a landfall card that I liked more than Aurora. But I think this is the one. This can blow up almost anything that's bothering you. Planeswalker being annoying. Yeah, you remember how I said the last card's good against Dutiful Wanderer? This one kills it just a little bit hard. Well, no, it doesn't. Well, when on the enter. This one enters and kills it a little harder. I should have thought about that a little more because the Wanderer's passive, but it's fine. Ziv. Shengfa. This card kills them all, okay? Banishing Light holding your creature down. Hulk says, get the heck out of here. And there's so many other annoying cards for mono green to deal with, and this card deals with all of them, okay? We're not scared of creatures. We're scared of non-creatures in mono green, okay? We're the biggest guys on board, but we can't do anything against those little cardboards that don't have power and toughness that I can bite. So Plaguebane Hulk, very powerful in that regard. However, it also can target your own stuff. That's right. You can blow up your own lands to get landfall triggers. You want the worm from earlier to give another +1/+1 to your board? Go for it. Plaguebane Hulk says, go for it. This card is sweet. Now, does it replace Aurora? I don't know. I like this card more than Aurora for dealing with general threats, but it doesn't have quite the same landfall kill potential, right? Because Aurora can potentially put 3 lands into play or more if we've been milling. So that is a lot more damage off of certain landfall triggers. But Plaguebane Hulk has the upside of just being better in the average mono green deck. So I think this is going to go into the average mono green, and for landfall focused lists, it might be a split. It might be all Aurora. I'm not sure yet. But we will be testing Plaguebane Hulk a lot. Speaking of lands, we have the best mono green landfall edition in the set. No, that's not true. The best mono green land in the set. There you go. Gorian Observatory is a forest land. That means it can tap for green. And enters tapped if you control a non-forest land, and you can pay 1 green to tap it to create a chart token. This was why we could not play the bounce land earlier, because this card is a free 4-of in any mono green deck. You can play it with Buffer Reconservatory, because Buffer's also a forest. That means this is a free card. It's better than a basic. That is so sweet. It can tap to make chart tokens. We love that. Helps thin our draws a little for later. Gets us lands for landfall triggers if we're still desperate for those. This, I mean, I can't, it doesn't do too much crazy stuff, but the fact that it does more than a basic and is as free as a basic means it's great. So I'm all in on Gorian Observatory. And it makes chart tokens, which are artifacts. Oh, they're artifacts. I thought they were enchantments. Shit. I was going to have this whole bit where I was going to blow them up with Ozenwood Huntsman, and this confirms that Ozenwood Huntsman's the best 3-drop of all time. Oh, that sucks. All right. Well, Ozenwood Huntsman, I'm afraid you're still not going to make it. All right. Well, moving on. We have Blightstalker. Now, it may be number 2 on the list, but I think this one actually solves Mono Green's biggest issue, which was graveyards. We used to be the kings of hitting the graveyard. We had so much nice graveyard hate. Now, not so much. Masksmith and Redeemer of Hollowed Flesh do not cut it, you know? Hitting 1 card from a graveyard at the cost of my Masksmith? Not very nice. Redeemer, I don't get to pick what I exile? Blech. That is a joke, by the way. I know Redeemer's a very good card. But now we have Blightstalker. Hits any card you want from a graveyard. And it gains you life on top. Vigor synergies are back online. And if you call your own graveyard with it, you can buff it. The card is sweet. I don't know if it's better than like a Scavenging Ooze or whatever, but it does enough where I am happy to have it. It's going to be a sideboard staple for the rest of its time, and I think it's probably likely to show up in quite a few main decks. So, it makes it to number 2 on the list. Did I even read the card? That's okay. That's fine. Finally, number 1. Could it be anything else? Ursus Minora. Green and a green for a 3/2 creature bear. Whenever a land you control enters, Ursus Minora gets +1/+1 against trample until end turn. That's right. 2 mana, 4/3 trample. Do I really need to say more? Aspiring Anarchist pairs so well with it. Now we have 2 different powerful green 3-drops, or 2-drops, to pair off with Aspiring Anarchist. The 2-drop slot may be crowded, but Ursus Minora is the king of the crowd here. This card is fucking sweet. I really don't have much more to say. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It was a pleasure to go through these cards. The set looks very fun, and I'm looking forward to see in what state the set arrives next month. If any of these mono green cards get changed, buffed, or nerfed, we shall see. I will do a patch notes reaction when those patch notes drop. All right, this is Provocative signing off. Goodbye.